The live stream has commenced, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm online, so
I'll just go to the running sheet. So, good evening, councillors, officers, and viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Suzanne Newton. I'm the Mayor of Darebin City Council and the chairperson of tonight's special council meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's special council meeting, and I declare the meeting open at 6:04 p.m. The meeting is being held virtually and is available for the public to watch via the live stream link on Council's webpage. The meeting has been scheduled as a special council meeting pursuant to Rule 1.12 of the Governance Rules, with notice of the meeting published on Council's website on Friday the 30th of August. Pursuant to Section 1136 of the Governance Rules, unless all councillors are present and unanimously agree to deal with another matter, only the business specified in the notice calling for the meeting is to be transacted. Any discussions relating to confidential information under Section 3(1) of the Local Government Act 2020 will require council to move into camera pursuant to Section 66(2). I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, the traditional owners of the land, and I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. Before we commence this evening, I'd like to introduce the councillors and senior staff who are with us this evening. We have Councillor Gaetano Greco, Councillor Tom Hannon, Councillor Susan Rennie and Councillor Julie Williams. And our officers in attendance tonight are Enna Jampiccolo, the Acting General Manager of Customer and Corporate, and Felicity Walsh, the Interim Manager, Governance and Communications. And I'd also like to welcome the Municipal Monitors, Ross Millard and June Anstey. And tonight our apologies are from Councillor Trent McCarthy, Councillor Messina, Councillor Dimitri Artis and Councillor Tim Lawrence. So we'll now check for disclosures of conflict of interest. If any council relevant staff member has a conflict of interest in respect of a matter on the agenda tonight, they must disclose the conflict of interest and the nature of the conflict. And I remind you that any conflict of interest must also be declared immediately prior to the item being considered. Councillors and officers, are there any conflicts of interest or any interest to declare? No, I'm not hearing any, so we'll go on to the next item, which is the OH&S responsibilities. Council has an OH&S responsibility to ensure anyone attending tonight's meeting feels safe, both physically and emotionally. It's great to see everyone here this evening, and I'd like to remind everyone in attendance to please be respectful of each other, and as outlined in our governance rules, please note the following. A councillor or any other person who addresses the meeting must do so in a courteous and respectful manner and must take direction from the chairperson whenever called on to do so. And councillors, as this is a virtual meeting, may I remind you to please leave your video on and mute your sound unless you wish to speak. If you wish to speak or ask a question, please raise your hand and leave it raised until you have my attention. When voting, please leave your hand raised until I've called the vote, and there's no chat facility between participants available in the Zoom. Councillors, I'll be permitting questions of officers prior to the commencement of debate on each item, and if I think sufficient questioning has occurred, I'll exercise my right under the rules to limit questions and ask debate commence, and we'll now move on to the consideration of reports. So consideration of reports, we have one report to consider, which is an appointment of an interim independent chair of the CEO Employment Matters Committee. Have we got any questions for officers regarding this item? Councillor Hannon.
Thanks, Mayor. Sorry I haven't asked this question earlier, but just looking at the recommendation on the agenda, I understand this is intended as a fairly short-term appointment while the substantive independent chair is on period of leave. Just looking at the recommendation, is it clear that the appointment, if we go ahead with the appointment tonight, will be until the substantive independent chair is back from leave? I assume it's not intended to have both positions in place, and do we need to amend it at all to make sure that that this appointment is only until the substantive chair comes back? I guess is that the intention, and would we need to modify the recommendation at all just to make sure that's clear? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Ed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll actually hand over to Yvette to answer that one.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hannon.
The reason why we left it for a period, or recommending a period of 12 months, but we are stipulating it's up until the recruitment and onboarding of the interim CEO process is concluded. So whichever of those concludes sooner would be the end of the arrangement with the interim chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hannan, does that cover what you need answered?
I think so. Just to follow up,
Sure.
to check my understanding. So does that mean that this temporary, that the interim will be in place until that interim CEO recruitment is concluded, and then it will go back to the substantive independent chair? Is that correct?
That's correct, Councillor Hannan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Greco.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just had a question, just in terms of a process question, just to understand the process that we've gone through in relation to the decision that we're making tonight, because it's slightly different to what we've done in the past. I believe when the CEO Employment Matters Committee usually conducts the interviews and things like that. So can somebody, yourself, Mayor, or one of our officers, just walk us through how we came to this point and the process that we've just gone through? Thank you.
I can make a start, but Yvette, I might go to you after. So we need to have an independent chair for the process of appointing an interim CEO, and our current chair is overseas, which meant that we needed to go through the process of appointing an interim temporary chair, which is what we're doing tonight. And I've met with that person online this week, and I'm comfortable with the recommendation to go ahead with them. But is there anything you want to add about process or Emma?
So I think it's important to note that we actually went out to the market and we sought 3 quotes to make sure that we complied with the procurement policy. We went out, we contacted 3 existing interim chairs at other councils that were recommended to us. 2 of them put forward a quote for service in the time frame. Both of those were put forward to the Mayor, and the Mayor proceeded to interview with the preferred candidate, and so therefore they have been selected and recommended on that basis.
Thank you. Councillor Greco, do you have any further questions?
Just as a follow-up to that, so because I understand that normally it's the process is that the CEO Employment Matters Committee conducts the interviews and determines who is put forward. So could that just be unpacked a little bit so that it's clear to all of us? Because I just believe that it's slightly different to what we've done in the past. So for the public record, to ensure that it's as transparent as possible. Thank you.
So the CEO Employment Matters Committee directed the Mayor to make a recommendation to the committee for recommendation to the council this evening.
Thanks for that, and I'm comfortable with the recommendation.
Okay, and just one final question, if I may. Just in reading the report, and this follows on from what Councillor Hannan has said. Given that our CEO Employment Matters Committee chair is overseas, and the period of engagement was 2 years, do we know how long they're going to be overseas, and does that extend that 2-year period, or does their engagement still fit within that 2 years? Just to understand that, please. Thank you.
Coming back in early October.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that.
Great. So I'm going to close questions there. Do we have a mover of the motion? Councillor Rennie, do we have a seconder? Councillor Hannan and, Councillor Williams, I saw Councillor Hannan first. Councillor Rennie, I'll go over to you to move the item.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a time-critical and essential part of the process that we have to undertake to appoint an interim CEO. Were it not for the resignation of our CEO and the need for an interim CEO, we could, of course, wait until our independent chair returned from overseas. But we all know that time is marching on. We'll soon be in council caretaker period before elections, and so there has been a reason to move with haste. And I would like to thank particularly the staff who have made this possible by assisting us in finding options and exploring what the market was. And I'm really pleased that we are able at very short notice and in a very nimble way to gain someone with this level of experience. I note that as a member of the CEO Employment Matters Committee, we asked the Mayor to do the follow-up and meet with Marilyn Carney, and that has happened. I'm really confident that we can proceed with this appointment. It is a very interim measure, and we will, of course, have Jo back with us once the new CEO has commenced and onboarded. So I think not much else needs to be said other than thanks to the staff for the extra work that this has generated in making this happen so quickly. We as a group are obviously going to move extremely quickly because we have a strong desire to see the appointment of an interim CEO before the council caretaker period.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. Councillor Hannan, would you like to speak a second?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just speak very quickly. Say I agree and support with what Councillor Rennie has said. It's quite an unusual set of circumstances, but we just wanted to be, do it the right way and be very transparent about this in accordance with and make sure we're acting in accordance with the CEO Employment Matters Committee Charter. I again just want to thank the staff for acting very quickly to get this done quickly and to enable us to move forward with the interim CEO employment recruitment. Also thanks to councillors as well, for being organised to come have the special meeting at short notice and just be able to make sure that we can just get this quite procedural matter done correctly so that we can move ahead. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hannan. Are there any further speakers? No, I'll put this item to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors, and thank you to Yvette, Anna and the team who have gotten this all together so quickly. I'll just double check. I believe that's our only item. So I'll just check. There won't be any items of urgent business. Item 7 is consideration of reports confidential. There is no confidential items. So we will close the meeting now at 6:17 p.m. Thank you, councillors, officers and monitors, and have a lovely evening.
Bye, everyone.